Okay, everyone. So welcome everyone. I'm going to make my introduction really short because actually we don't have time for a big introduction. So our presenter today is Patty Sanchez Franco. Patty has an extremely successful, extremely well-regarded coaching practice in Westchester County, where she is a business coach and trainer. And she's also, we're so happy to have her part of the Collaberex community. She's one of our master Collaberex facilitators, and everyone that's in her group actually will admit that she is a master at it. She's our role model for how to do this. So I'm going to leave it at that. And Patty, why don't you get started? And we're so happy to have you. And thank you so much for doing this. Unmute yourself, Patty.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. I really love all of you. I know many of you from the extended community and those of you in my group. We have a wonderful dynamic group of people that are very committed. So it's my pleasure to be here today. And I chose this topic, leverage your personal power to grow your business, because I do say very daringly that this is one of my superpowers. At least that's what I'm told. So I wanted to put together best practices that come from both my own experience and coaching practice and my journey in life, quite frankly, as well as the research. So I do a lot of ongoing research on confidence, relationship management, all of that good stuff, which we're going to go deep into later. But that's why we chose this topic. Jonathan thought, of course, this is a core foundational skill and topic for what we're trying to achieve through this network. So without further ado, let me jump right into it. I won't spend a lot of time on my bio slide. This is for those of you who don't know much about my background. This will give you just a little sense of it. Definitely, I invite all of you to reach out to me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected. And you can see my bio there, extended experience, and that way we can stay connected and support each other. One of the things I'm very big on is promoting people in my network as much as I can. I try to share the wealth. I try to cast a wide net. But this is about me, my background in HR, sales, franchising, and now coaching. And probably the most important thing I want to just point out is my niche. So at this point, I have really honed my client group to business owners and leaders who are also parents, who are trying to shift from the surviving type of way of going about things to thriving. And there's many ways to achieve that, but I work with my clients both on their career goals as well as their personal lives. So that's just a picture of my niche. I do work with non-parents as well, of course, but this is the group that seems to be drawn to me the most. So what will we cover today? In our short time together today, we'll do a quick dive into power, what it means, the 4 types of personal power, and then which one is your superpower, which I think is really important, which is why I started my statements with the personal power is one of my superpowers, and a specific aspect of it, which we'll get to later. And then we'll discover ways to leverage the different aspects of personal power so that you can grow your business. And I'll leave enough time for Q&A at a couple of points in time. And by all means, if as I'm presenting something, you have a burning comment or question, just raise your hand, using the emoji raising hand, and Jonathan will call on you, and we can field it in the moment, or we can wait till the end, whatever you're more comfortable with. I will flex with you. Okay, so we're going to start off as we normally do with something interactive. So my question to you is power given to you by other people? Or the statement, power is given to you by other people, is that true or false in your humble opinions?
Patty, do you want me to bring up the poll?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, getting a lot of responses in.
Okay.
It looks like we have 15% say it's true and 86% are saying that it is false. That is very interesting. So It is actually both, but let me explain what I mean by that. So essentially, true power in terms of your ability to move something forward is granted to you by others. Because if people don't buy into your vision or your authority title, we'll get into the different aspects of power in a moment, but if they're not bought in, really bought in, then it's hard to move the needle and use your power. Having said that, you generate all of that internally from yourself. So you are your own self-leader, and the more effective you are at leading yourself, the more power you will have access to, and then leveraging that power to actually use your power is granted to you by other people. Does that make sense? I'm seeing some head nods. Okay, excellent. So something to contemplate, really thinking, I thought that was a deep question, an important one to start with. So what is power? Essentially, power is a vast majority of things. Sometimes it can be used for negative or destructive purposes, but obviously for purposes of our conversations in our business and personal lives, we want to focus on the positive uses of power. But power essentially, by definition, is the ability to inspire, implement changes, control resource, people, or events, make decisions. In some cases, it is used to destroy, which is very unfortunate. Overcome resistance, obstacles, and opposition, in some cases to dominate people, places, or things. And ultimately, it's the ability to use your energy to make something happen. Would you all agree with that? Sort of a conglomerate or summary of all the different definitions out there that I've read. So I thought this was a simplistic way to summarize that. And then essentially there are, if you do the research, you'll see there's 4 types of power. So you have personal power, which is what we'll be focusing on today. And then you have reward power. So when leaders use their power to reward people that work for them, whether it's perks or monetary compensation, or you can reward your clients or your followers on social media, all of that is a form of power. There's coercive power, which is probably very obvious, and that is the punitive type where you threaten punishment or penalties in exchange for cooperation or alignment or compliance. And then, of course, legitimate power, which is based on your title or your authority. The CEO of a company obviously has the ultimate decision-making rights, so that's what we mean by legitimate power. And then what is personal power, which is what we're here to talk about today. So it's the ability to transcend goals through confidence, competence, and courage. And I thought that was the most simplistic, straightforward definition, which I took from Psychology Today. But what I want to say about that is the quote here is that personal power is a core leadership competency that everyone really needs to develop before they can really lead others. So you have to be able to lead yourself first and foremost and most effectively before you can be really effective at leading others. So that's why I said in the beginning, this is a foundational skill, and it's oftentimes one that we can sometimes take for granted. So there are 4 sources of personal power: authority, which is your position or status, you're the person in charge. I'm sure to some extent, many of you may leverage that in your businesses and your lives. Then you have knowledge, which is a very commonly primary power source that we rely on. So that's when people seek you out for your expertise, your capabilities, your special knowledge, your certifications, your level of experience in your area. Then, of course, relationships, which is what this whole organization of Collaberex is based upon. And that's the ability to have people trust you over time, and then they allow you to influence them. That's why we said, essentially power is granted to you by other people. And also, there's an obvious component in there. It's about who you know and can connect others to, but we'll get into that a little bit later in terms of how to leverage this aspect of power. And then finally, and what I would say, humbly, in my opinion, is probably the most important, is confidence. And that is exercising your power, the power that you have to use your authority, your knowledge, and your relationships, and use it wisely. So we'll get into that in a little bit more. But those are the 4 aspects of personal power. So what I'd like you all to do is grab a piece of paper and a pen and do a quick assessment for yourself. to what degree are you currently leveraging your power in these 4 areas? So just quickly jot down authority and give yourself a rating from 1 to 10, either 1, 2, or 3, meaning not at all. 4, 5, or 6 is sort of somewhere in the middle, and then 8, 9, or 10 would be to the fullest. So rate yourself in each of the 4 categories. How much are you leveraging authority, your knowledge, your relationships, and your confidence? And I'll give you a moment to do that. Okay, does everyone have a rating? Just give me a thumbs up. Excellent. Okay. So the second polling question is, of those 4, which form of personal power is your superpower? So which one did you rate the highest? And another way, so that's your self-evaluation, but I would also invite you to look or consider what's of those 4 areas, which one is the one that people acknowledge the most for you, that you've gotten feedback on? So for example, I have had people actually say to me that I have a high level of confidence and they admire that about me. And I'm only using that as an example, but that's usually a sign, like someone goes out of their way to say, wow, you're awesome at relationship building. And you've heard it more than once, probably that's part of your superpowers. So Jonathan, go ahead. Yeah, thank you so much. A few more responses coming in, but it looks like it's shaking out with knowledge is the leading one, followed closely by relationships. And then thirdly is confidence, and then authority. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting. Do you want to share the results?
Can everyone see it? The results?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Awesome. All righty. So that doesn't surprise me. In fact, that's exactly the way I expected it to shake out, because I do think that by and large, and this is from my own observation, not any particular research, that knowledge is the superpower we lead with. I mean, think about it. We talk a lot about marketing and selling in all of our Collaberex groups, and oftentimes we focus on selling our services based on what we know and how much we know it, as opposed to, this is why you will benefit from working with me. Here are the more softer aspects, but sometimes people really do, or a lot of times people buy from you or will hire you because of the trust and the synergy and energy. So it's just something to keep in mind as we continue to look at this a little deeper. Okay, so the 2 areas of focus for today that I really want to hone in on, of the 4 areas of personal power, the 2 areas that I think will serve you best, all of you collectively, all of us as a community, are relationships and confidence. And I love this particular photo that I found of the kitty cat looking in the mirror and seeing his or herself as a lion. It's such a great depiction of what essentially is possible when you have a certain level of confidence. So here we go. So in terms of existing relationships, there are about 10 top ways that our best practices and research says are the best ways to leverage your existing relationships. So first and foremost, ask for support. And I purposely am leading with that as the #1 way, because I think it's the one area, and a lot of this is going to come from insight in working with all the clients that I work with. And I work with executives and leaders in insurance, finance, marketing, sales, education, nonprofits. So it's across a wide variety of industries. But oftentimes I find that the higher up people go in their careers and in their positions, the harder it often is to ask for support. But when you can humble yourself to request support, ask for other people's expertise, it creates a synergy and it solidifies the trust, and it also gets you what you need. So it's an important aspect of leveraging your relationships. Secondly, offer support. So you have a clear sense, all of you, of what your superpower is. When you hear and see opportunities of your peers in this community and other communities you're part of, offering support when you can, of course, and to what extent you can, but offering to show up for their presentations, offering to work with them on a project, or go to market together to pitch services to a client, or reviewing information for someone. There's a million ways that we can support others on a small scale, but also on a business scale and a bigger scale. And they're really, really important. Offer an opportunity, and I put in parentheses, to pull people in. So inclusion, this is where inclusion really, it's not just a concept and a pretty word in a strategy or a document, but the more you invite people to participate in a strategy, an initiative, in the development of a concept, in meetings, in idea generation, the more you solidify and nurture those relationships, the more they trust you. It just builds from there. So looking for opportunities to pull people in. I know I talk a lot about push because my motto is love the push, but really the way that you draw in, especially clients, is by attracting them through pull energy. Then you can push them. Increase the frequency of your interactions. So I started during COVID, just as a quick example of, I literally had a checklist of people that I wanted to reconnect with. And rather than get overwhelmed because the list was very long, I decided to systematize it, as I do with a lot of things, and really say, okay, this is someone that I've lost touch with, or these are the top 5 people I want to connect with or reconnect with. And I also want to stay connected to them. So I try to juggle. It's not a perfect scientific method by any means, but increasing the frequency of your interactions is a very important way of staying on people's radars. Acknowledging other superpowers. And what I mean by that is verbally acknowledging them. So the more you can empower and light people up by saying, you know what, that was amazing. That is your superpower. You're so good at that. It reinforces and builds their confidence. And when you give that energy away, it comes back to you 10 times over. Diversify your network of relationships. So again, I invite you to look at your LinkedIn community, all the people that you have in your network, and try to identify some areas where maybe you're lacking connections or lacking relationships, so that you have that diverse community of people that you can leverage when you need to, or just because they add value to your knowledge, your expertise. Perhaps your peer advisory community. I know I have in my own mind an imaginary advisory board. It's not official, but I have certain people that I tap into when I need to make a decision, pivot with my business, and I call those individuals, and some of them are on this call right now, and I bounce things off of them. And that really helps me. And I always seek out people with different industry backgrounds, different levels of education, and I will just bounce things off of them. And I find that that's extremely beneficial to me, but they also get value contributing their superpower. Promote the people you believe in and be an advocate. I'm sure all of you can appreciate that and probably already do that naturally, but doing it very intentionally in terms of, part of your business strategy can be very, very powerful. Nurture mutually beneficial relationships. So I try to narrow down, at different points in time, which mutually beneficial relationships I want to increase frequency with and invest a little extra time with. Maybe once a quarter, I shift my focus and really say, okay, I want to nurture this relationship for the next 3 months, and maybe we can work together, or we can partner on something, or just exchange ideas. Be proactive and reach out unexpectedly. And I want to give a quick example here that's very personal. So last week, or actually probably 2 weeks ago, this whole situation going on with the war in Ukraine and Russia and all of that has been very heavy, I'm sure, for all of us. And I took a moment and paused the other day, and I said, who do I know? Because I don't have any direct contacts that I'm aware of that are Ukrainian. Actually, I do through my husband's network, and we've checked in on them. But I was thinking, who do I know that either has family in Ukraine or Russia, or is from there? And there was a woman that I literally worked with 25 years ago. I have connected with her on LinkedIn and we've stayed loosely connected, but we haven't spoken probably in 25 years. And I reached out to her for no reason other than to just say, how are you doing? I'm sure this is such an extra stressful time for you and your family. She's from Russia. She immigrated here when she was a teenager. And long story short, she was really blown away and so pleased and thankful that I thought of her and I took time out of my day to just reach out. So, I did that from the bottom of my heart, not for any other reason, but again, it's an opportunity and now we've reconnected. And so, whatever she needs, I'll be there for her and vice versa. So reach out unexpectedly can be a really powerful way to reignite a relationship. And then, of course, pay attention to feedback you receive from those you trust. So again, being humble, being attentive, and really picking up. Sometimes people that you trust will give you subtle feedback, like you might want to consider this, or, have you thought about that? And then other times, depending on their personality style, they'll hit you between the eyes and say, you really need to change this, stop this, start this, etc. And it's really helpful, I think, if you can take that feedback to heart and apply it, and then thank them for the fact that they took a chance and they used their power and were brave enough to give you that feedback. And that's yet another very important way. In fact, often with clients, when I was leading my franchise years ago and we had hiccups in service delivery, and I tell stories all the time in some of my other training sessions on clients that exploded or had a situation. And those clients ended up being my most loyal clients in the long term because I listened, I didn't get rattled by their behavior or the volume of their voice in the moment. And I gave them options and did all the great customer service techniques. And I applied their feedback so that I could regain their trust. And they ended up sticking around as, subscription members for a long time because they knew that we cared and that I cared. Okay, and now we have 5 ways. I narrowed it down to 5 for confidence, even though I feel even more strongly that this is really the core foundational aspect of personal power, and that is taking decisive action. So it's really important that, a lot of times we get stuck in our heads and we second guess ourselves and we can avoid making a decision if it's an important one. But at some point, and that's why you want to leverage your relationships, you want to just be able to recognize that you have the power and the ability to make this decision. And the quote at the bottom here is just a perfect example of this. And then have the courage to use it and trust that whatever decision you make, it will work out. And what I mean by that is there are some philosophers that say you really can never make a true mistake. And I know that could open up a whole dialogue around that's not true. And, I've had this debate with family, friends, and clients, but I really do personally believe that you really can't make a mistake. There's only opportunity to learn from the outcomes. If you take a direction or go in a direction and it doesn't work out the way that you wanted to, what did you learn from that situation? What are you gaining in terms of knowledge and expertise or new relationships or income and things like that? So take decisive action because it will free you up to just play the game, get on the court, so to speak, play the game and get to an outcome. And then you can grow your business even further from there. But staying stuck just depletes you, brings your confidence down. The avoidance, all of that is just draining energy. Secondly, unwavering commitment versus attachment to your goals. So what I mean by that is when you really have true commitment to an outcome, like I want to grow my business to this amount by the end of this year, and I am unwaveringly committed to that, versus being attached to it looking a certain way. Because when you get attached to the results, when you have letdowns, when you have rejection, when you have disappointments, it throws you off. It's like an athlete, it throws off your game. You're kind of like, I'm upset because I missed the shot. I'm upset because I got a no. And it can really take you completely off track, worst case scenario, or at least short term, it's a deviation from you achieving the long-term goals. So when you remain clear and committed that this is an end, I'm committed to the end goal, which is this amount of income or this level of business or, whatever that bigger macro level goal is, and you don't get rattled by the disappointments along the way, that's leveraging your confidence and also on some levels your faith, your faith that it's going to work out. Know your core values and align them with your goals and plans. That's super, super important, which is why I do my vision board workshop every year, with or without, regardless of COVID, whatever is happening in the world. I do it first at home with family, and then I do it with my clients or whoever wants to join. And that's because I think it's important to go deep at the beginning of the year. And you can do it at any point in time, of course, but getting clear, revisiting your core values, and making sure that your business plans, your strategies for the year ahead are in alignment with those, because they can shift. If you go through a life event, your core values may change. When someone goes from being a single person to married, or a single person to married with kids, or somebody dies in the family, or something happens, your values may shift a little bit, and you want to make sure that your business goals and plans are aligned with that. Then the last two, visualize outcomes you want to have. Visualization is very, very powerful in terms of achieving goals and leveraging your confidence. I was literally just coaching someone yesterday who's going on a big interview early next week. And instead of getting into tactics of interviewing skills and this, that, and the other, which we've done before, I said, you know what? I think the best way to serve you today is to do a visualization exercise. And I literally walked him through imagining the types of questions that he would get, especially the tougher ones, and what his answers would be to those questions, and imagining getting positive feedback. So being in the moment, being present, and imagining it going very well is actually a very critical strategy, again, that people use with athletes in terms of like playing out how the game will go and how they will get to the finish line, so they get the outcome that they want. And there's actually science and research around that really, really works. So that will, if you can visualize it going the way you want it to go, it boosts your confidence so that you can leverage it and hit your mark. And then finally, initiate a win-win approach to everything. I do this ad nauseum, especially at home. And, my kids will probably say, oh, Mom's always all about like, well, what's the win-win? But this is something that I'm teaching them and will stick with them forever. But I do say that in a lot of situations, personal and with clients, and, all aspects of my relationships, is what would be a win-win outcome here? Or what can I bring to the conversation or the situation so that I get what I need and want in a productive, constructive way, and the other person does too. Because that's different than compromising. Compromising is when you give up, everybody gives up something, and you kind of meet somewhere in the middle, but nobody's really happy. Win-win approach, a true win-win approach, is you win, I win, we move forward together. And when you can create that, and that's why I said initiate a win-win, your confidence to deal with the next complicated situation grows exponentially. So again, you need the confidence to know that you have power. So that might be a reflection opportunity coming out of today's session, and then work on your courage to use your power. Because if you don't, it really is a wasted resource. Would you all agree? You're leaving a lot on the table. So I'm going to go through these last bullets here, and then I'm going to pause for questions. But how do you grow your personal power? So here's what it boils down to in terms of growth for you and for your business. Number one, acknowledge and declare your ambition. And the teaching point here is really the more you articulate out loud, and that is the best practice. I'm up to this, I want to make partner. I want to grow my business by 20%, and saying 20%, articulate your ambition to everyone, especially those who are in your inner circle, is super empowering and powerful. Increase your level of self-awareness. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we do our wrap up, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is to constantly be working on you. And part of that is understanding or uncovering your blind spots. Where do you need to sharpen your skills? And it's all through self-awareness is the gateway to that. Replace negative self-talk with positive. So this is where we get into self-regulation or self-management, whatever terms you want to use. This is also very, very important. And it's easier said than done, but that's why I will offer you some tools and resources at the end on how to do this better. Advocate for yourself. So to grow your personal power, you've got to have the courage to say, I'm the best consultant for you for this reason, or I'm the best coach for you, or Collaberex is the best organization for you, and here's why. And really advocate for you and your business with that level of passion, and that will just continue to grow your superpowers. speak up, share your opinions and ideas. And I know this can be challenging sometimes for those who are more on the introverted scale, but what I coach my clients who are more introverted, I tell them, you have to push yourself here. This is where you're getting out of your comfort zone, but speak up in meetings, whether you're with senior people, junior peers, whatever, share your opinions and ideas, because otherwise people will be left wondering, what do you have to contribute, or why aren't you contributing more? So you can be selective, but it is important to insert yourself, and that will help you grow your confidence. Acknowledge your fears. And I love that Jonathan created a whole agenda, which I did a few sessions ago with my group on, instead of just focusing on action planning, was it fear planning? It was fear.
Yes, it was better to define your fears than your goals.
Right, yes. So that was such a powerful TED Talk and exercise, and I did it in my group. I highly recommend all of you, we can send it out as a follow-up if that's helpful, but really working on doing a better job of being vulnerable, acknowledging your fears for yourself. One of the things that that speaker in that TED Talk video, in another TED Talk he did, I remember him, he really leaned into his fears. He had, like, just a quick example, this person was someone who was deathly afraid of swimming because when he was young, he almost drowned. He had a situation and he almost drowned. So he had like this big phobia about water and drowning. And when he was in his 20s, he decided to really tackle this fear because he's like, this is crazy. It's going to hold me back from doing things that I love with people that I love. So he went and took lessons, and he went so far as to study the science of fear and literally physically how to overcome the fear of getting in the water, of being in water over his head. And through coaching, as well as lessons, as well as support from his network, and a combination of all of them, now he's an avid swimmer, and he actually has swam competitively. So amazing story, but the point here is that acknowledging your fears out loud, embracing them, leaning into them, and really going to tackle them, super, super important, because it will make you powerful in other areas. I tell my story often about dancing when I was in my 20s and how I was afraid to be the first one on the dance floor. That moment of being the first couple on the dance floor changed my life forever, and is what gave me the confidence to do a million other things. Because once you conquer that big fear of public speaking or swimming or doing something really scary, you really get present to your power, and it's transformational. Another, opposite to some of these is scheduling quiet time. And this is a best practice of the most successful people, but have at least 10 minutes a day where you are doing nothing. And I'm talking not even meditation, nothing structured, nothing fancy, just sit in a chair and just be, and just sit for 10 minutes. You will clear your head, you'll get present to what's going on around you, and it will empower you and just open you up. It's like disinfecting your countertops at the end of the day. It's like just wiping the slate clean. So I highly recommend it. It can be a game changer, especially during these stressful times. Maintaining a growth mindset. I won't spend a lot of time on that. I think we're all familiar with that concept, but it's that never-ending strive to learn from mistakes, recover faster, and continue to grow and learn. Practice self-care, which is part of that is the quiet time. But if you've lost track of some of your self-care habits, definitely pull them back in. I know when I do workouts, I feel way more powerful in conversations later than on the days where I'm like, I don't feel like working out. Then it's just harder. It's harder to have sensitive conversations or to, show up a certain way for family and for clients. Focus on interpersonal skill building. So this is an important one in terms of, if you work on the nuances of how to have sensitive conversations, how to give difficult feedback, how to navigate conflict in a way that creates the win-win, you really lean into those opportunities, you will feel way more confident and capable. Anything can be thrown your way and you can navigate it. Empathy is really a key skill, and for so many reasons and in so many situations. So continue working on that. And then finally, just the theme here is strive for personal excellence. So, you don't want to get obsessive with the personal development aspect of things, but I would say, remain committed to striving for personal excellence in all these areas. I'm sorry, is there a question?
Patty, we have a bunch of questions, but why don't you
Excellent.
go and we'll save, when we're ready for Q&A, then we're going to,
Actually, I
we'll address
think,
them.
well, I was going to do this slide and then Q&A, and then we'll go, I have a few more slides, but I want to do Q&A and then come back to the wrap up slides. So one of the things you want to write down and reflect on, you certainly are welcome to come off mute and share, but I want to make sure that you leave this webinar with at least one aspect of your personal power that you want to focus on for yourself, whether you share it with us or not. And if you want to put it in the chat box, that's a great way to articulate your ambition. So jot it down for yourself, share it with the community if you'd like to, so we can support you. And then I do want to allow you to open it up for questions.
Okay. So, Patty, do you want to unshare your screen so people can see,
Sure.
or right, do that. And
Yep.
everyone, if you want to see, since we have a big group here, if you want to
Yeah.
see who's talking, just go to on the top right where it says view, and you could put it in speaker, and then the speaker will show up more prominently on your screen. So instead of gallery mode, so you might want to do that. So let me just, I know there were a few comments in the chat, and let me kind of ask some people to kind of expand on the some of their questions, or if you have other questions, you can put them in chat, or you can use the emoji to raise your hand. So David Haas, he writes, how would you think about influence in the relationship to power? So David, you want to expand on that slightly?
Sure. I mean, I just think that that influence gives you a lot of power. Actually, I happen to be reading this book on behavioral economics right now about nudges, and I think the book is actually called Influence by Thaler. And the entire idea is that you're influencing people, and that's a form of power.
Absolutely. That is a form of power. But the way that you get the influence is by developing your ability to connect with people through your relationships, and then using your powers strategically. So it's all intertwined. Absolutely. You have power and influence through your confidence, through your knowledge, through, a collection of things. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, David. So David Joss made an interesting comment, said obstacles are things you see when you take your eyes off your goals. David, do you want to expand on that in any way?
I just thought it was a nice way of summing up what she was saying. I heard that from a coach somewhere, and I thought it was terrific. I just thought it was in sync what she was describing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I'm curious Liz Roll, you want to say who Erica Brown is? Are you there? Okay, it was a comment that Liz, I don't know if, Liz, are you still here with us? If not, we'll go on to the next one. She just wrote Erica Brown, and I don't know who Erica Brown is. I'm curious. So
the name sounds familiar. She's probably a speaker in this space of personal development, I'm guessing.
Okay, good.
But
Well, we'll go into the next one. Darcy Flanders, she writes, once you speak your goals and share them with others, the pathway to achieving them begins to appear. I think that's a great comment. Darcy, you want to expand on that a little?
Sure, why not? So the older I've gotten and the more years I've owned a business for, so this is 25 now, I realize the importance of setting goals and not just kind of meandering around and figuring out what's going to come to you. And then B, you can set them, but somebody's got to hold you accountable. So if you speak them, and if you speak them to a group of people, which is why I love Collaberex, and you say, I am looking to do this and I am going to do it by, then somebody will poke at you and say, hey, you said you were going to do this. Are you doing it? And once you speak those goals out loud, people also start to look for resources to help you get there if they love you, Like, oh, let me introduce you to this friend of mine because you might want to sell your business in 5 years. They get people ready to do that. Or, people just genuinely, I think people really want to help if they can. And if you tell them what it is that you need help with and you let yourself get vulnerable, I feel like the path starts to appear.
Absolutely, 100%. And Lisa Snow just said that in the comments. I saw that, Lisa. Absolutely. In fact, I'd say 1,000% that's so true, because you will just attract the resources you need, the support you need, and that just lifts you up and it builds up your confidence, because you're like, wow, if even 5 other people are bought into this, me achieving this goal, it must be possible, it must be achievable, and now I have help. So it's definitely achievable. So absolutely.
Yes, thank you. And of course, Darcy, you added in build confidence. A good way is to take good care of yourself so you feel good and strong and look good. So everyone agrees with that. You know, you put your best foot forward and
confidence. You can't get on a call with 5 days of beard and a schlubby t-shirt and be like, give me work. I mean, you have to own your power, but you have to project power. And part of, I think, Debise is on this call. So part of projecting power is your own personal style and confidence, and like grooming yourself to look like you deserve the business,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. In fact, really quick comment on that, that I'm sure Scarlett will appreciate as well. Before Zoom was a thing, and before it even existed, and I was in a sales role for many years in network marketing, I used to get up and get dressed and put my makeup on, even though I was only going to be on phone calls all day, because it made me feel powerful. And on a really good day, I would even have heels on. And my now husband and then boyfriend was like, what are you doing? Why are you going through all of this to get on the phone for 4 hours? And I'm like, because it charges me up. It makes me feel powerful. So it's my thing. It works. And on the really bad days, I would put a mirror there just so that I could see, like, you made an effort, you look good, good enough, whatever. This is what people are going to hear. And it worked. It really did work.
Right.
Once upon a time, I was an athlete, and it's the same thing with sports, right? Like, basketball players don't wear headbands because of the sweat, right? They wear it because it makes them feel a certain way, right? Football players, they play at night 90% of the time, and they're still wearing eye black, right? It's just because, you look good, you feel good, you play good. Same thing in business. It's exactly right.
Thank you so much, Chris. Of course, Chris is the one that's dressed nicely for the Zoom meeting. Nice tie. Really good. Okay.
We feel special. Thank you.
Yes, I know. Thank you so much. So Bill Abram wrote, when you were talking about growth mindset, he rates even better an abundance mindset. I tend to view an abundance mindset as something in addition to a growth mindset. But Patty, do you have any comments on that? Or Bill, why don't you want to expand on that a little?
Sure. I just think that all too often we approach business as, what's in it for me. And I think more often if we say what's in it for everyone, we end up all of us in a better place.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think they're two different things, but they are definitely complementary. So I would agree with you 100%. Abundance, there's one of the books I highly recommend if any of you are looking for your next interesting book to read is The Secrets of the Millionaire Mindset. And they talk about the difference between scarcity thinking and abundance thinking. And that was also very much a game changer, especially when I was in a sales role, because we don't realize how much subconscious or unconscious behavioral conditioning and thinking, we have around scarcity. A lot of us, unfortunately, depending on, our parents and, different factors in our lives, were raised to think, you need to be careful how you spend your money. You need to, be careful of risk taking. And like in so many areas of our life, it's like scarcity, scarcity, scarcity. So you really have to train your brain to think abundantly and to do a lot of the things that we talked about today. You have to work on it on purpose.
Yes, thanks. So I see that Latrice wrote, dressing up a little really does make a difference. And it took Scarlett about 3 seconds to reply truth. So Scarlett is our resident stylist. So either of you want to expand on that, please? Scarlett, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm unmuting. Yeah, I mean, I just wrote, if you don't, confidence is so important, but you have to sometimes work on things to get it for yourself. And you can't help anybody else if you don't feel it yourself. And so putting on the shoes, I did the same thing, Patty. I drove my husband crazy with the clicking of my shoes in the house when, like, why are you doing this? But it changed the attitude.
Mhm.
And when you feel more professional and you look more professional, doesn't mean you have to have a tie on, but it just means you have to feel like you care. It
Mhm.
changes how you think, and then it totally changes how others see us. So
Absolutely.
and we're not able to do anything for anybody else if we don't first start within ourselves. So
Absolutely. And I just now found you, Latrice. I love your hat. It's amazing.
Thank you. I just want to add something in it just to piggyback on.
Just look at that hat.
So yeah, I mean, everything Scarlett said is true. I would also like to mention that, especially since we're still in the world of Zoom and people are still kind of dressing casual, dressing up just even a smidge, even for that business meeting or for whatever it is that you're trying to project a little bit of personal power makes a difference. Because guess what? You're going to inspire people to do something different or to look at you differently. You know, to be like, wow, you look great, right? And that exudes, right? And because we're all on Zoom, we don't have the luxury right now to see you in person and get all the other communication cues. So just dressing up a little bit and exuding that personal power that you care about your own self and what you're projecting makes a difference on how people are going to perceive you, how they're going to connect with you. Sometimes I may get on a Zoom, and even if I don't say anything, if I just showing up just a little bit, I get someone to, hey, can we connect? Can we talk? I love what you were wearing. Confidence, 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 confidence. So it does
Yeah.
Now,
I love it. I love it. You're making me want to go get a hat.
Really nice.
Looking at
really
the pictures right now, all lined up, like you can tell that this woman does something with fashion. You don't know what,
Yes.
but just
Yep.
the fact that she is bold enough to wear that hat on this
Mhm.
call, like there's something different going on there. So even if you didn't get a chance to talk to her, you might want to call her and say, hey, what do you do that you're wearing that cool hat, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, and Darcy, you're one that has like the highest emotional intelligence, or not regarding design. So you're just you have a design mindset. So
Yeah.
thank you. So Paul Louisel wrote something that I think a lot of us deal with, and he writes, "I'd like to focus on acknowledging and declaring my ambition." In other words, putting it out there, telling people. So Paul, do you want to comment?
Well, that's exactly it, Jonathan. Having a newer career in what I do now, as far as helping people, finance their homes, I really need to get out there a little bit more. I'm doing a lot of that, but I feel like I first need to really acknowledge how far I want to go or where I want to go and how to get there, and then tell others, kind of share, what my ambitions are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, so I would encourage all of you, and I'm going to go back into my slide deck in 2 seconds here with just a few wrap up things, but I would encourage you to really take a small step, but a committed step coming out of this today to apply something that you learned. And I know that sounds like, we always say that and do that, but like really do it, because that's one small baby step you can take that will up your confidence for today, the rest of the week, finish out the week strong, but then really set yourself up. So yeah, continue to declare, and maybe in your respective Collaberex meetings, that's the place to start. Start your meetings by saying, this is what I'm up to. This is what I'm committed to. Hold me accountable for this. So articulate it even more. And yes, Darcy, we are loving the bunny ears and the glasses.
Yes. So Patty, before you go back to your slides,
Yes.
I just want to ask you if you have a little extra time after, I know a lot of people have to log off at 1 o'clock. This is an hour workshop, but if you have some extra time, could you stay on a little longer? Because I see we have more comments and questions, and other people, if you want to hang out more,
I do.
we can get to them. Okay, great. Thanks.
Yes.
Sorry
Absolutely.
to interrupt. Okay.
No, you're good. So let
Okay.
me do this. Let me go back to, it brought me back to the beginning. Hold on 1 second. Let me go where I left off. Okay. Okay, so key takeaways that I hope you will get from this collective conversation is it all comes down to these several things. The ability to connect with others on an emotional level, So just keep things on your radar, especially when you're leading with your knowledge superpower. Are you being transactional and too focused on facts and figures and the what of what you do? And are you missing opportunities, or where are there additional opportunities to connect on an emotional level using one of the techniques we've talked about today? Where are your opportunities to use your courage, right? To take a bold step in a new direction or to advance your business. There's an opportunity in front of you, and if you leverage this community, we will give you the support and the push to make it happen. But you have to leverage your courage, and that will build your confidence. And then self-awareness and self-management is really what it boils down to. So, I'm going to introduce an option for you in a moment that if you want more information on, I can share with you, and you can use it as a key way to up your awareness and your self-management. But there's others as well. There's books out there up the wazoo, of course. So you can do reading, you can take other workshops, you can work with any number of fabulous coaches, but choose something. Take a committed approach to your development, because this statement, I think, really says it all. Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person you become. So I'm just want to pause there for a couple seconds. Success is something you attract by the person you become. So I love that quote by Jim Rohn. I think it just summarizes what personal power is all about. So here's what I have coming up. If you're interested, I am hosting a complimentary lunch and learn on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, the 29th, from 12 to 1. And Jonathan's going to send out a thank you email, and I'll have the list of people who attended today. If you'd like to attend this, you have an open invitation. I'm not widely publicizing this to, it's not on LinkedIn, it's not anywhere else. It's to my personal networks and, select groups. But I'm going to give an overview of the positive intelligence model and the opportunity to join my 6-week program, so you can go through getting training on the positive intelligence model through a 6-week course if you'd like to. So if you want to take a bold step forward to increase your personal power that will immediately impact your results, this is one key way that you can do this. So you can reach out to me, or you can wait for Jonathan's email to come out. But just a really quick 1-minute overview for those of you who may not know what positive intelligence is. It's your capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. There is actually a whole series of breakthrough research in neuroscience and cognitive positive psychology and performance science that has come up with the 3 ways that you can retrain your brain through increasing your self-command muscle by using what we call the saboteur interceptor, which is understanding when you're in self-sabotage mode and how do you shift to sage mode. So you ultimately have more sage or wisdom moments and leverage your positive mindset. So think of it as, for those of you who are Star Wars fans, which I'm sure you've all seen it at one point or another, it's like Jedi mind training. It's like learning how to be a Jedi. And that's super powerful, because think about all the conflict and stress we navigate every single day. If you had the capacity to not get rattled, recover more quickly from stress, and be able to connect with people because you're not in your head, hesitant and fearful about this, that, and the other, what else could you accomplish? So that's what we call, so the measure of your positive intelligence is done through what we call mental fitness. So let me explain this just a little bit further. So mental fitness essentially is like the X factor right now. This whole framework is growing very quickly on an international basis. A lot of coaches are getting certified in it, and they're offering it to their clients. Think about it this way. If you're not physically fit, you feel physical stress. You're tired, depleted, etc. If you're not mentally fit, you feel mental stress. And this is not, and I'm not talking about excessively like at the depression level, or that's different. I'm talking about frustration, anxiety, unhappiness, which is what emotions we all experience at different moments, probably every day, and how we handle and navigate relationship challenges. So all the stuff we're collectively dealing with, the war in Ukraine, the ongoing political divisiveness in this country. Coronavirus is not over, but hopefully it's winding down. But so much stress has been piled on us on top of what we already have in our personal lives. We really need to up our game and upgrade our mental operating system so that you can be in thriving mode regardless of what's going on. So essentially this, if you come to Lunch and Learn, I'll go way deeper into all of this, but for anyone who can't attend that date, think about it this way, how you build mental fitness. So this is us right here. This is how we normally show up. And this is all human beings. Doesn't matter how wonderful and smart you are. We tend to self-sabotage all day long. So we have more self-sabotage thoughts, negative thoughts and emotions. And we have a certain amount of mastery, but it's like this big without this training or without, some form of training. And what this program is designed to do is get you to the point where you shrink the self-sabotage tendencies and you have much greater access to your self-mastery. So that's the most simplistic way I can explain it. And that's what's available. So if you want to participate in Lunch and Learn, I would love to have you join me there. And then you can get more information about the 6-week option. You can read the book on your own. There's a bunch of different ways you can get access to the content. So I just wanted to put that out there. And with that, I'll pause and happy to take other questions.
Okay. Patty, thank you so much for this presentation. For everyone that has to leave now, for anyone that wants to hang out, Patty will spend a couple more minutes answering other questions. And I see there are other comments and questions in the chat that I'd love to get to if those people who put them in can remain. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. It was really
Yes,
great.
thank you. So great to see everyone's faces. I love it.
Okay, so I'm gonna go right to Ruth because she has her hand raised. So let's see, Ruth, you said you have a question about contact management. So do you want, will you explain that, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Patty, for a wonderful presentation.
You're welcome.
So I was so impressed to hear that you remembered somebody who you met 25 years ago, and you remember that person from Ukraine. So, that's an amazing memory, but other than having the unbelievable, very good memory, what's the trick of contact management? So I'm asking because, if I have more than 1,000 contacts, sometimes if somebody asks for, do you know a good intellectual property attorney? And I looked through my contacts, this name doesn't pop up in my head. And I was hoping that there's some search function I could do online in my Outlook contacts, and it's not really working well. So my question is, do you have some kind of trick, or do you have some kind of contact management system or software that you use that you can recommend to us?
Thank you for your question. That's a very good question. So I actually don't have software or anything specific, though I'm happy to throw that out to the group. And by all means, if anyone does, please put comments in the chat box to help Ruth out. But my system is really just, honestly, it's a combination of a few things. So every once in a while, I will, if I'm in line waiting or I'm at the doctor's office, on a big half-hour delay waiting to be seen, I will scroll through my phone, and instead of looking at random stuff on social media, I go to my contacts and I look and just see, because if you're in my phone, you're definitely someone that, is on that frequency list, hopefully. But if we haven't spoken in a while, I will literally put it on my tickler list. I have like a notepad on my phone, and I'll say, call Rhonda. I haven't spoken with her in a while. Like, I'll make a short list of just 3 people so I don't feel overwhelmed. And then by the end of that week, I call those folks, and it really is, they're surprised, right? But the bigger picture in terms of like LinkedIn, and I'm not a LinkedIn expert, but there are a million different searches and features that you can use on LinkedIn. And I can put you in touch with 2 people who I know are LinkedIn experts, if that's helpful, that will, can easily explain, but you can do a search based on categories. So like, I've worked at 5 different Fortune 500 companies in the first part of my career. So I might search, like the woman I referred to earlier was part of my Cigna network. I worked for Cigna Health Insurance for a long time, healthcare, sorry. And so I could have done a search on Cigna contacts, and all the people I worked with back then during that time would pop up, right? As well as some new ones. So you can search by, alma mater, you can search by former employer, there's definitely different ways you can do that. But by and large, I would say schedule at least once a quarter on your calendar on like a Friday or whatever day you have time for this, or could just spend 20 minutes and go through your LinkedIn contacts and just quickly eyeball them and see, okay, who haven't I connected in a while that I might want to, because I'm doing this, thinking about that, trying to change this, trying to execute that, and just make a short list. And you can send them a quick note. Haven't spoken to you in a while. Let's connect. 15 minutes.
Thank you, Patty. That was great. I want to get to a question that Lisa Snow put in the chat. She writes, when you come across authoritative, sometimes it makes others intimidated. But when you come across as friendly, sometimes it makes others feel you're less authoritative. How do you balance? Great question, Lisa. You want to expand on that at all?
Sure. Oh, well, go ahead, Lisa. Yeah.
You could unmute, Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah, just curious how you balance that maybe in a networking event versus in a one-on-one conversation versus as a speaker is obviously totally different.
Right. I think, that's a very good question. I would say the way that I do it, which is the only way I can answer it, is by tone. So if I'm saying, I'm not going to say I'm speaking as an authority because I'm certified in XYZ, but I will just say, based on my in-depth experience with this or my certification in XYZ, I firmly believe this, and so I will assert my authority, but based on something very specific. But the tone of it matters, right? So just like, and I always default to my kids, I'm like, if I speak to them and like, you need to follow this rule, I don't want to do that, right? That's the energy you're going to get back. But if you say, you know what, I'm helping you, or, I've done this 15 other times and I know it works, like your energy, your tone, your inflection, now they're motivated. Now they're going to listen to you. So whether you're working with kids or adults, I think a lot of it is language choice and tone.
Yes. Darcy? Yeah. And then David?
I think I agree with that. And I think that humor can help a little bit, right? Like if you're making a presentation and you're coming across as an authority and you throw a lighthearted line in there, people see you as human. But I also think that you, instead of telling people what to do, to Patty's point, like instead of saying, this is how I do it and this is the right way, if you explain the reason, like you start with the reason. So sometimes people may, not want to redo their brand because they've invested a lot of money in it, but it might not be telling the right story. In my opinion, it's important to spend the money because it's an investment in who, like if you do it that way, instead of saying, I'm an expert in branding and you need to do this, then they think, oh, she's pretty arrogant and oof. But if you give them the reason and like pull them in with the reason why it could help them and then present your authority, I think that's like a good way to soften it a little bit too.
Absolutely. Just a quick comment on that. I always joke around and I say people have an allergic reaction to being told what to do. So keep that in mind.
Yes. Thank you so much. David, you want to unmute and ask your question? The button's bottom left. There we go.
I thought your response was very good, Patty. One other thing worth thinking about is it depends to some extent, not only on your tone, but on your perception of the client. And I think all of us in the service business have to be psychologists to some extent. If you know the kind of client he is or she is, that will help you in how to respond to the person. Some people are much more amenable to this sort of thing and will take advice at any point, and some people will not. So that's another consideration, I think.
Absolutely. And I find if this is helpful, a lot of it's intuitive, right? So sometimes when I'm dealing with a very high powered executive and they are very strong with their presence and their power, I have to meet them at that level. So I have to really up my energy and, say, all right, so you believe this and I believe that. And, but you have to feel that out. In other cases, that could backfire. If you try to assert too heavily, they'll be like, whoa, I'm not ready for that. So some of it is intuition.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to talk about a comment that I love that Valerie wrote in the chat. The road to success is always under construction, she writes. And I think the operative word is always.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that.
Valerie, you want to expand on it?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jonathan. And thank you so much, Patty. Great, great presentation. Not surprising. The thing is that, you know, life offers, you know, neither problems or challenges, only opportunities. And so with that being said, you're going to hit bumps in the road all the time, but you have to look at it as a gift and an opportunity, which I know, Patty, you'll appreciate that language. But, you know, it is very true. So Patty, when you were talking about the road of success and that you have to keep doing and keep pushing and keep growing, and when you fall down, you get back up. And so that road that you're constantly going to be on, which is your journey in life, you get to curate those experiences. And those experiences are going to come with some that lash you and knock you down, and those other ones that bring you nothing but flowers and popcorn and candy. But somewhere in between, you know, you'll be there and you'll experience them all. So that was basically the comment based upon the statement that you were making as you were wrapping up, Patty.
Thank you. Very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Patty. Well, you know, one of my takeaways is, can you imagine being in Patty's household? It's like she makes her kids do vision boards like every year, and like, you know, you're at the dinner table, just pass the salad and let me explain why this is a win-win situation. I mean, really, you know.
Yep. Sometimes it's a little too much, but I take my cues and I know when to dial it down, and it's all good. And it's also bumpy and lumpy, and sometimes mama's in a cranky mood, so I'm not always this high energy, but you know what, my 9-year-old is so awesome. Like the other day I was really tired and in pain with something physical, and she took care of me. She came, you know, she has great intuition, and she's like, she literally pulled me by the hand and she made me sit down. She went into my bedroom and took the novel that's on the side of my bed, which is not a business book, right? A novel. And she's like, read this. She's like, you need to stop working and thinking about work. She's like, just read, mommy. It's good for you. I was like, I love you. So perfect. It was just what I needed. But so they are always watching me, and, you know, at the right moments, at least my younger one. The older one's still, you know, work in progress, but she's not quite there yet with the intuition. But it's so awesome that, you know, they really do adapt and apply at least some of what they hear me, you know, or demonstrating. So it's awesome.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out for an extra few minutes.
Thank you.
And, you know, and I will send a follow up with context so you can, you know, connect with Patty and come to her workshops and visit Collaberex or just be our friends, or Darcy will order more bunny ears.
I have those same bunny things at home. I just don't know where they are. So.
Of course you do, Patty. Of course you do.
Okay.
Look for some to wear next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Take
Amazing
care.
job,
Have
Patty.
a wonderful day.
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you, Patty.
Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Jonathan, you want to hang back?
Sure. Yeah. Good job, Patty.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you could stop recording if you want.
Oh, yes. Okay.